Welcome back to These Things Are Written on this Friday. Glad that you are joining us as we continue to look at Amos chapter 2. We are actually wrapping it up. Remember, chapter 1 and chapter 2 so far, we have heard the prophet Amos speak words of judgment against Aram or Damascus, against Gaza or Philistia, against Tyre, modern day Lebanon, also against Edom, Jacob's brother, then also Moab and Ammon, and finally Judah. All of the nations around them have heard these words of judgment, and now they're probably thinking, see, that's right. Look at all of those bad things that they have done. Even Judah is being called out. They're probably feeling pretty good about themselves right now. And then Amos speaks another word of judgment, this time against Israel, beginning with verse 6. For 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4, I will not revoke the punishment, because they sell the righteous for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals. Those who trample the head of the poor into the dust of the earth and turn aside the way of the afflicted. A man and his father will go into the same girl, so that my holy name is profaned. They lay themselves down beside every altar on garments taken in pledge, and in the house of their God they drink the wine of those who have been fined. These are the reasons that God is bringing judgment upon them. First of all, because of their greed, selling the righteous for silver, the needy for a pair of sandals, not looking out for the need of the other people, but looking to line their own pockets. Remember, this was a time of great wealth in the land of Israel, but also a time of great division between the rich and the poor. Not caring about others, but only caring about self. Sounds a little bit familiar. Anyway, let's move on. The next one is because of their lack of mercy, trampling the head of the poor into the dust of the earth, etc. The sexual sins that we're committing, a man and the father going into the same girl so that my holy name is profaned, showing that sexual sin. And the final part is hypocritical worship. Those things that they were talking about, they would worship, but yet using those things that they had taken wrongfully. So let's continue now. As God in these next verses reminds them of what he had done for them. Yet it was I who destroyed the Amorite, the Canaanites, before them, whose height was like the height of cedar and who was as strong as the oaks. I destroyed his fruit above and his roots beneath. It was I who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, who led you 40 years in the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite. And I raised up some of your sons to be prophets, and some of your young men for Nazarites. Is it not indeed so, O people of Israel, declares the Lord? And now he turns into some of one more thing that they did. But you made the Nazarites drink wine and commanded the prophets, saying, you shall not prophesy. Okay, let's go back first of all to what God had done, right? God had delivered them from the Amorites, from the Canaanites when they went into the land, even the giants before them. He delivered them from slavery in Egypt, even before that. And he developed leaders for the people in the Nazarites, the people that would come from God who would deliver them, but yet they caused the Nazarites to sin. They did not listen to the leading of the prophets, and for that, God is bringing down judgment. Verse 13, behold, I will press you down in your place as a cart full of sheaves pressed down. Flight shall perish from the swift, and the strong shall not retain his strength, nor shall the mighty save his life. He who handles the bow shall not stand, and he who is swift of foot shall not save himself, nor shall he who rides the horse save his life. And he who is stout of heart among the mighty shall flee away naked in that day, declares the Lord. First of all, looking at verse 13, talking about, in some ways, other translations say that this is more Yahweh groaning under the strain of their disobedience. Press you down in your place as a cart full of sheaves presses down. The cart is groaning. The Lord is groaning under the weight of their transgressions. And then he talks about how the things that they rely on will fail them when the Assyrians attack. Flight, perishing from the swift, and so on. These four verses that deal with the punishment all rely on, showing that they are relying on themselves, and they will not be able to deliver themselves from the Lord and from the Lord's army that he is sending, the Assyrians who would come, and they would not be able to stand up to them, but they would be destroyed. More of this prophecy is coming in the chapters ahead. We'll keep seeing this pattern of their unfaithfulness and God's destruction that he brings. As we look at this, and we might also be saying, yeah, see, God will punish those who sin, much like the Israelites, without realizing that when God speaks the law, it's not just to those other people, it is also to us. Hear the word of the Lord in its truth, in its purity. Don't look to see how others are being called out in this, but examine your heart and return to the Lord, for he is faithful. He will forgive. Come back next week. We're going to be starting chapter 3, another couple great passages in there that show how God is dealing with his people. We'll see you then. God bless.